With the number of aspiring medical students rising, there's great competition, so everyone is trying their best to succeed in all parts of their application, the UCAT being one of the most important parts of that process. So, my name is Mohammed, I'm a 4th year medical student. Here's everything that you guys need to know about the UCAT exam. Firstly, what is it? The UCAT exam stands for the University Clinical Aptitude Test. Let me just break it down for you. It's literally an examination that's done before you apply for medical school. You tend to do it between year 12 and year 13, that summer in particular, and it's basically an important part of your application process. How important really depends on the medical school that you're applying for. Some medical schools even go as far as not giving spaces to people who don't get a certain mark or a certain score in the UCAT. All in all, the UCAT is a 2-hour exam, and really the most important thing to realize when it comes to the UCAT is the UCAT is assessing skills that aren't really innate. These are skills that are developed over time, and with that being the case, that means that these skills are things that you can practice again and again and again and hone in on and get better at over time. Key thing, get better by doing practice again and again and again over time. That's the main way of doing well in the UCAT. If you are, as people like to say, just born as being naturally quite smart, then you'll have it a little bit easier than others. If that's not the case and you tend to find these questions a lot more difficult, then yes, unfortunately, you're going to have to just graft. But once again, it is possible to do well just by grafting. So let's just break down what is the UCAT then. The UCAT is comprised of 5 different sections. It's got the verbal reasoning section, the quantitative reasoning section, the abstract reasoning section, the decision making section, and lastly a more clinical one, the situational judgment. With it being 2 hours, here are the different timings. Verbal reasoning is 21 minutes long. The quantitative reasoning section is 25 minutes long. The abstract reasoning section is 12 minutes long. The decision making section is 31 minutes long. And the situational judgment section is 26 minutes long. Verbal reasoning has 44 questions. The quantitative reasoning section has 36 questions. The abstract reasoning section has 50 questions. And yes, that's 50 in 12 minutes. And then the decision making section has 29 questions in 31 minutes. And then finally, situational judgment has 69 questions in 26 minutes. So yes, that does seem like quite a lot then. But over time, once you've been practicing for about a month really, that's why I suggest practicing for about a month and preparing for this exam, you should be fine with these timings. But a few tips then. Even before we go into the tips, what's the scoring like? So really and truly, the way that they score you is, you obviously got your mark out of how many you've gone right out of how many there are in the whole section, and then that mark is scaled to give you a certain score. How exactly it's scaled, by what factor, is not actually known. It's never actually been released, but there's a lot of online kind of converters and scale creators that have been made by medics. For example, we've got one here created by the We Are Medic group, a group of all the year medical students who have now definitely graduated time ago at the University of Birmingham, who created this mark converter scale thing that you can use for your UCAT revision, and it is quite almost realistic, and I'll have it in the description as well, and it's the one that I used when I was preparing for my UCAT. But in essence, there's not one real exact one, but the highest you can get is about 900 and the lowest you can get is 300. So how do you want to be revising then? Key thing, consistency. Consistency is so fundamental for this. You need to try and do at least some amount of work every single day. What I like to do at the beginning, what I started off doing, is spending 2.5 hours every single day trying to do certain amount of questions, about half an hour worth of questioning on every single section. Over time, I then see what sections am I better on, what sections am I worse on, and then adjust the amount of time that I'm spending based on that. So maybe I'll spend 15 minutes less on one section compared to another one, and probably add that 15 minutes onto the one that I'm finding a lot more difficult, just so that I'm spending more time in a day doing that section. And what you'll notice is most people tend to struggle with verbal reasoning a lot of the times. It is the one that people tend to do the worst at. Another thing that I'd suggest is, once you've found something that's quite helpful, especially when it comes to resources, just stick with that resource. Like, I personally use Medify, and it served me quite well. Like, whatever I was doing ended up kind of reflecting in my real thing. I got 660 average with a band 2 in my situation judgment, and it got me 2 offers from medical schools with that score. So yeah, it is fairly doable really. So quick few tips. There's going to be a lot more tips in another video that I'm going to have out, so do subscribe, do kind of stay tuned, put push notifications on just so that you don't miss it. There's going to be a lot of videos when it comes to UCAT in the upcoming days, but here are my top 3 tips. First and foremost, practice, practice, practice. There's nothing better than that. Practice is the only way that you're going to get better at this. Another tip when it comes to you revising is the keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to have it somewhere on the screen, but I'd also recommend you getting one of these big fat keyboards with the number pads on the side, because it really does help with that math section. It's really the only thing that got me 890 in my quantitative reasoning section. If you're able to get quick on that calculator, you can really do any calculation rapidly. Finally, when you're in the exam, or even when you're practicing, if you're doing anything under time conditions, if you don't know a question, just skip it. Every question is worth 1 mark. There's no point spending so much time on one question that you're finding a lot more difficult when you could be doing a ton of questions that are a lot more easy and just getting through those. You don't want to miss those easy questions. Focus on the easy ones, then move on to the harder ones. But yeah, that's everything from me on the UCAT and just a guide on it, to be honest. There's going to be a few more videos on the resources that I suggest and really how should you work to just do well in these UCATs and for you to get a score that you're quite comfortable in. Anything that's 700 and above. I got 660 and I was quite good, and I got 2 offers. So 700 and above is really going to be the sweet spot for everyone. That's where you're almost guaranteed places 100% when it comes to med schools. If you've got 700 and above in your UCAT as an average, and then at least a band 2 in your situational judgment as well. But if you have enjoyed the video, do like, comment, share, subscribe, turn on push notifications button so you never miss out on a brand new video. It's been Mohammed, all thanks, and stay tuned.